The village of Blackbrook lay shrouded in an eternal mist, its cobbled streets slick with damp, its houses sagging under the weight of time and sorrow. Few dared to remain in such a forsaken place, and those who did spoke only in whispers of the curse that had befallen it. No crops thrived in Blackbrook, no children laughed in its streets, and every night, an eerie wailing drifted from the ruins of the old manor atop the hill. Once, the manor had belonged to Lord Theron Veilheart, a noble of great ambition and an even greater fall from grace. The villagers spoke of him as a man once proud and just, until the fateful night when he invoked the wrath of something far older than his bloodline. Some claimed he had delved too deep into forbidden knowledge, seeking power beyond mortal grasp. Others swore he had slighted a wandering crone, whose vengeance had swallowed the estate in shadow. Whatever the truth, Theron had vanished, and his halls had stood abandoned ever since, except for the restless thing that still stirred within. One storm-laden evening, a lone traveler arrived in Blackbrook, drawn by the whispers of a bounty. The man, cloaked and road-worn, entered the village tavern, where the few remaining townsfolk huddled close to the hearth. "I seek the manor," he announced, his voice cutting through the heavy air. "Tell me of the curse." The barkeep, an aging man with hands calloused from years of toil, set down his rag. "You'll find only death there, stranger," he muttered. "Lord Theron sealed his fate and ours along with it. The manor is cursed. No one who enters ever leaves." The traveler merely nodded and left without another word. The path to the manor was overgrown, its wrought iron gates rusted and twisted. As he stepped across the threshold, a biting chill wrapped around him, and the air thickened with whispers. The great doors creaked open at his touch, revealing a grand hall choked with dust and decay. The once opulent chandeliers hung like skeletal remains, their crystals dulled, their light long extinguished. Then a voice echoed through the darkness. "You should not have come." The traveler turned sharply, his hand instinctively falling to his weapon. From the shadows emerged a figure, gaunt, clad in tattered finery, his eyes sunken but burning with an unnatural light. It was Theron Veilheart, or what remained of him. "You are bound to this place," the traveler said, more statement than question. Theron gave a hollow laugh, a sound devoid of mirth. "Bound? No. I am imprisoned." The air grew heavy, and the walls trembled as the whispers swelled into wails. The curse was no mere tale, it was alive, an entity that fed on Theron's regret and the village's despair. The traveler had come to break it. With a flick of his wrist, he produced a silver talisman, its engravings pulsing faintly in the gloom. "Tell me how this began," he demanded. "Only then can it end." Theron hesitated, his gaze drifting beyond the present, into the past where his sins still lingered. He had sought power to save his ailing wife, turning to the old gods for aid. In his desperation he had struck a bargain, one that required a life for a life. But when the time came to pay the price, he had hesitated. His cowardice had twisted the magic, condemning him to an eternity of suffering. "Then the debt must be paid," the traveler said grimly. "One way or another." The manor groaned as the entity within stirred, sensing its reckoning. Shadows surged, taking form, clawing at Theron, binding him in their grip. He screamed, fighting against the tide of darkness, but it was futile. The traveler uttered an incantation, the talisman burning like a star as its light slashed through the gloom. With one final, anguished cry, Theron was consumed, his form dissolving into dust. The wailing ceased. The weight lifted. And for the first time in decades, the night in Blackbrook was silent. The traveler turned away, stepping out of the accursed halls. Behind him, the manor began to crumble, its existence no longer sustained by the dark forces within. By dawn there would be nothing left but ruin. The curse of Blackbrook had been lifted. But the traveler knew all too well, there were always more curses to break and more souls in need of saving.